Abu Dhabi. It's pretty cool. Sunset, everything. Yeah, let's push through this last one. Have a good one, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Gils, thank you for the message. Yeah, last one. We'll make the most of it for sure.
"58 laps. Enjoy every bit of it. A good one. Have a blast. Abu Dhabi. It's pretty cool. Sunset, everything. "58 laps. Enjoy every bit of it. A good one. Have a blast. Abu Dhabi. It's pretty cool. Sunset, everything. Yeah, let's push through this last one. Have a good one, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Gils, thank you for the message. Yeah, last one. We'll make the most of it for sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, mate. It's been an honour. Okay, mate. Finished the job in the best possible way. Finished the job in the best possible way today.
Yes, thank you guys.
Gonna be amazing.
Has been amazing, man. Has to be like this.
Has been amazing,
also
man.
today. Has to be like this also today.
And Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, fighting it out to be runner-up to Verstappen this season. They are level on points at the moment. Leclerc is ahead because he's won more races than Perez this season, and it basically comes down to whoever finishes ahead out of the two of them will finish second in the championship. But there's also a race to be won as well. Max Verstappen is starting on pole position ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez, and he will be looking to win yet another Grand Prix this season in what has been an incredibly dominant Hamilton year. And Russell, but you also have the Mercedes Formula One win and Mercedes' first win of the season a week ago in a chaotic race in Brazil. Can they come through to finish on the podium? Maybe to challenge the Red Bulls in the closing stages? We'll have to wait and see. The cars are going around on the formation lap now. Alongside me for commentary is the Jaguar Formula E driver and former Mercedes F1 reserve driver, Sam Bird. Sam, this fight between Perez and Leclerc is going to be interesting for second place. Verstappen, how much is he going to help his teammate? Because there was a lot of controversy last week where Verstappen refused to help Sergio Perez in Brazil.
You're right, Jack. There was a lot of controversy, wasn't there? But I think that that's been sort of squashed now. They seem to be friendly-ish yesterday after qualifying. But if I know a little bit about the mindset of Max Verstappen, I think he's just going to want to go out there and dominate the race, leaving potentially Sergio Perez to be a little bit vulnerable to the Ferraris behind. The big question for me is, do the Ferraris have the pace even to challenge Perez? And should they be worried about the Mercedes behind?
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting fight, that, and we're expecting this to be a...
Just want to say a huge thank you to everyone here in the team, here at Factory. So honored to work with you, and Nate, thank you so much for your commitment all these years, man. Really miss you.
Max Verstappen on pole, Perez second, Leclerc third, Sainz is fourth, Hamilton is fifth, Russell is sixth, Norris, Ocon, Vettel and Alonso are the top 10, Vettel in his final Formula One race. Tsunoda in 11th, Schumacher 12th, Ricciardo 13th, 14th for Stroll, 15th is Joe, and then it's Magnussen, Gasly, Bottas, Albon and Latifi. 20 drivers that are just lining up on the grid now in Abu Dhabi as the sun begins to set, starting in the dusk and going into darkness, and down in the pit lane is Jenny Gao.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating this start because they know overtaking here is really tough. So in order to get an advantage, that's why Gasly's chosen the softs. They'll look to leapfrog other people around them and try and take an advantage.
Just 3 hours to go till the opening match of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, which you can of course hear on 5 Live. But for the next hour and a half, we'll be bringing you the final race of the Formula One season in Abu Dhabi. It's about to begin. Verstappen is on pole position, Perez alongside him. Leclerc and Sainz are on the second row of the grid as the race gets underway. It's a nice start from Perez. He's trying to pull alongside Verstappen coming into the first corner, and he goes for it. Sergio Perez to the inside, but Verstappen hangs on all the way around the outside. Hamilton has got ahead of Carlos Sainz, so he's got up into 5th position already. George Russell has lost out to the McLaren of Lando Norris. Verstappen who holds the lead, Perez in 2nd, Leclerc is in 3rd, but Leclerc goes for the move on Perez. Perez chops across in front of the Ferrari and holds the place. That could give Lewis Hamilton a run. Coming down the back straight, out of turn 6 towards the chicane, Verstappen is leading. It's still Perez in 2nd place. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari in 3rd, looking in his mirrors as Hamilton weaves around behind, but Carlos Sainz is attacking Hamilton.
Got forest wide. Copy, we saw him, he pushed you off.
Over the sausage curb on the exit and loses the place, and he then comes back on ahead of Carlos Sainz. He might have to give that place up, almost identical to what happened between he and Verstappen at the opening lap last year. But Verstappen holds the lead, Perez is in 2nd, Russell is fighting with Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. Ocon going wide into turn 9, but Russell holds the position ahead of him. But it's Verstappen leading, Perez 2nd, Leclerc 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Sainz in 5th, 6th is Lando Norris. Sam Bird, entertaining first lap. I thought Perez was going for it there on Verstappen at the start.
Absolutely, we're seeing a replay now of Lewis Hamilton just behind Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz, great move down the inside, and yet again Lewis doing that move across the escape road at the chicane down the back straight. I think that the FIA are going to be telling Lewis Hamilton to give that place back, because I think Carlos Sainz had got that done fair.
Okay, I overtook him. He needs to give me a position. Super unfair. He did exactly the same last year with Verstappen.
It's the side there. Verstappen leading, Perez 2nd, the 2 Red Bulls in 1st and 2nd. Charles Leclerc had a really sort of half-hearted look coming into turn 5.
Okay, I overtook him. He needs to give me a position. Super unfair. He did exactly the same last year with Verstappen.
That's what we're saying, Carlos. So that's Carlos Sainz on the radio saying, I overtook him, he needs to give me that place back. Hamilton ahead of Sainz at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo overtaking Mick Schumacher. 2 drivers who may well be in their last Formula One race, neither of whom have a seat for next season, and they're fighting it out over 13th position. Ricciardo in the McLaren up into 13th. His teammate Lando Norris in 6th, having got ahead of George Russell at the start. No further investigation for Hamilton and Sainz, so that suggests to me the stewards think...
And reminder, you got talk 4 available, talk 4 available.
Copy.
I would presume is what their thinking is.
That's exactly what they must be thinking, Jack. I thought that this one was even... I think last year was less clear-cut. I thought that Carlos had a point this year. Just my opinion. Because you can always, as the driver being overtaken, force the issue and use the runoff. But I thought Carlos had a move done there fairly well. I'm sure that this will be discussed long into the night this evening, because it have big impacts on today's race.
So, Max Verstappen's lead is only a second. In fact, it's 0.8 of a second ahead of Sergio Perez. They come out onto the back straight. Perez, is he quite in DRS range as they come down towards the aim? If you're in with a second... If you're within a second of the car in front, you get to open the flap in the rear wing and get more straight line speed. And Perez was in DRS range. Hamilton...
All about the management at this stage. Yep, copy.
Leclerc is a good couple of seconds off the back of Perez at the moment. Hamilton at the moment is setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Perez closing in on the back of Verstappen as they come into 9. And now Hamilton is under investigation for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So maybe they're treating it as 2 separate incidents. So maybe they're saying it was fine what Carlos Sainz did, forcing Hamilton off, but maybe it won't be fine what Hamilton did. It's quite a roundabout way of going about this, all these investigations. At the start, Perez was fully there on the inside with Verstappen, wasn't he? But just not quite able to pull it off. And then Charles Leclerc had a pretty half-hearted move into turn 5 to try and get Perez his second place.
Yeah, with all the practice starts that go on through free practices and the support packages, especially Formula 2 doing real race starts on the grid, actually
so Norris 0.7 ahead, they will still have DRS.
Starting 2nd, 4th, 6th, etc., they can get a good launch. We see now down the back straight, we see the weakness of the Mercedes actually in the toe of the Ferrari, but not gaining. This is going to be really critical to watch out for throughout the race. Oh, and Lewis has a massive hit on the floor when he goes over the sausage curb. I wonder if that might have hurt the floor on his car. And we know that these modern Formula 1 cars, the downforce does come from the floor.
Yeah, so that incident still under investigation. Max Verstappen leading, Sergio Perez in 2nd place, Leclerc is 3rd, Hamilton is 4th. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, the first few laps of this race really critical for the engineers who are looking on at the different tyres that are being used. Most people started on the medium. A reminder, the hard was on for Bottas and Magnussen, the soft for Gasly, and the other engineers from other teams. Hamilton.
Okay, Lewis, we've been asked to give the position back to Sainz.
Hamilton has now been asked to give the position back to Carlos Sainz. We got there.
Okay, Lewis, we've been asked to give the position back to Sainz.
So Hamilton has given the place back to Carlos Sainz, and he drops down to 5th place, and that's going to be really frustrating because he was all over the back of Charles Leclerc for 3rd position. Now Hamilton will need to overtake both Ferraris on the circuit again if he wants to get up onto the podium positions. The gap at the front is 2 seconds between Verstappen in the lead and Perez in 2nd. Do continue, Jenny.
Thank you. If you start on the soft tyre like Gasly, they worry that it will only last maybe 10 laps or so. It degrades so quickly, but they're lacking information, so they'll be poring over the numbers of all the other teams to work out which tyre is best, which strategy is best. Is it definitely a 2-stop? Could it be a 1-stop? All these answers to be decided.
Hamilton's got a really good run now on the back of Carlos Sainz, who was a bit wobbly as he got on the power. He's coming down now into the chicane, goes to the outside. Lewis Hamilton gets on the... That's the part of the track he was forced off before, but he's going for the switchback to cut back to the left, then get better drive out of turn 7, and he's done it beautifully here. Hamilton goes to the outside now, does he, coming down into turn 9? That's still going to be a little bit tricky for him, but he's got the DRS, he's on the outside into 9, and Hamilton does it. Hamilton gets ahead of Carlos Sainz, overtakes the Ferrari, and he is now up into a legitimate 4th position.
The Ferrari just looks like it goes through those rear tyres so quickly, Jack. I think that they overheat far too quickly in this phase of the race. We see that the track temperature is 34 degrees, so by no means as hot as it's been all weekend. The Ferrari should come to its own a little bit later in the race when the track temperature goes down a little bit more. But it's worrying signs down at Ferrari right now.
Across the line comes Max Verstappen. His lead over Sergio Perez is 2.3 seconds. Then it's another 2.2 seconds back to Charles Leclerc in 3rd position, before Hamilton had to give that place back to the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz.
You tell me when Seb loses the DRS.
Copy.
It's Ferrari, so now he's been released from Sainz. He's on a charge again to try and get up to the back of Leclerc. He's currently the quickest man on the circuit on that last lap. In fact, the two Mercedes were Hamilton was the quickest man, Russell was the 3rd quickest man. So a bit of pace in that car as Hamilton tries to close in on the back of Charles Leclerc now. George Russell, he has managed to finally clear Lando Norris. Lost out to Lando Norris at the start, but he's up into 6th place, George Russell, and he now is trying to attack Carlos Sainz. In fact, he's got a very similar drive out of the chicane to what Hamilton managed last time. The problem that Russell has is that Sainz has DRS as well, because he's still close enough to Hamilton, but Russell's closing, looks to the outside into turn 9, but he's not going to be able to pull that one off, and has to tuck back inside and tries to... He'll have to fight another day. Hamilton 1.6 seconds back from Charles Leclerc at the moment. So the top 6, Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz and Russell. Lap 6 of 58 in the season finale of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now that Mercedes seem to have cured their handling woes of the beginning of the season, if only they had some straight line speed, Jack, we'd have a proper fight on our hands again between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton and George Russell.
Here is Russell's radio.
Lewis needs a pace so he doesn't give Sainz DRS. Ferraris are slow, we can beat them.
So that's Russell saying, tell Hamilton to hurry up so that Sainz doesn't have DRS, so that Russell can overtake Sainz. And I'm sure Hamilton would plan on hurrying up and will try and close in on Charles Leclerc, but not quite closing in that much at the moment. And this time through, Sainz is still within a second of Hamilton. So Russell closing in on the Ferrari, but the Ferrari is closing in on the other Mercedes of Hamilton, who's running in 4th position. And in fact,
Lewis needs to pick up the pace so he doesn't give Sainz DRS. Ferraris are slow, we can beat them.
Carlos Sainz for 4th position. Verstappen and Leclerc are the top 3. Hamilton's looking in his mirrors as Sainz gets closer and closer, but not close enough to make a move this time. 4th and 6th at the moment for the 2 Mercedes, Jenny.
Yeah, those Mercedes, we were expecting them to come back in the race. Yesterday's qualifying, they'd lost a little bit from what they hoped, and they were really far back from the Red Bulls compared to how they were in Brazil, but they are really keen on this race. They really want to push on. They knew potentially the Red Bulls were out of touch, but my word, they really want to get clear of those Ferraris so it doesn't damage their tyres too much and make them forced into maybe a two-stopper and having to take some pretty drastic management-saving options for the tyre.
Hamilton ran wide on the previous lap coming out of turn 1, which may explain a bit of his time loss. Meanwhile, Pierre Gasly on the...
Balance is okay, the rears are the limiting axle.
Copy that, copy that.
Try and make up places. He's losing places. He's down in 17th position. Has just been overtaken by Mick Schumacher's Haas. So that's not good news at all for the soft tyre shod Pierre Gasly. Hamilton was driving really aggressively, but he's now 2.4 seconds back from Leclerc, and Sainz is on the attack again. They're coming down into the chicane. Hamilton covers the inside, Sainz goes to the outside, and this is basically a carbon copy of what we saw with Hamilton passing Sainz. Sainz is trying to pull that up on Hamilton. He hasn't quite got as good an exit out of the chicane as Hamilton did, but the Mercedes is a bit of a sitting duck on the straight. Sainz to the outside, and he's back up into 4th position. So Charles Leclerc in 3rd, Sainz in 4th, Hamilton drops down to 5th. Sebastian Vettel is going up the inside of Esteban Ocon, coming into the left-hander of turn 9, and that's now 8th place for Sebastian Vettel in his final.
Okay, Lando, we think that means it's either plan A or B, not plan C.
Odd one there from Vettel. He'd done the hard part.
He'd done the hard part. There was, I don't see why there was any need to run out that wide. It's like he was just wanting to unwind the steering lock to get maximum drive out of the corner. And yeah, that curb is particularly difficult. If you get on that curb too much, it sort of takes you to take even more curb, and then the bottom of the car sits on top of the curb and you bounce up and down, and there's no way off it.
Here's George Russell.
What's going on?
You're free to race.
So Russell being told you're free to race with Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton in 5th position, Russell in 6th. Hamilton's early pace has just completely evaporated, and Russell is right behind Hamilton now as they come out of the left-hander of turn 5, and Hamilton doesn't have DRS. He's dropped back from Carlos Sainz, so Russell is going to be on the attack on his teammate. Hamilton covers the middle of the racetrack. Russell goes to the outside, and the 2 Mercedes are going to...
What's going on?
You're free to race.
In Brazil, all of a sudden, is a lot quicker than Hamilton can manage. He's right in the slipstream. Russell pulls to the outside coming into turn 9 and breezes by Hamilton. So Russell now up into 5th place. Hamilton has dropped to 6th position. A real sudden lack of pace for Hamilton now. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, I wonder if that's got anything to do with damage. I've just asked the team. Of course, he launched into the air and crashed back down again when he came into contact with Sainz. So there might be a little something on the car that's just not aiding him, but I'll wait for the team to get back to me. And just on the soft tyres, we're not expecting them to go deep into this race. Maybe we're going to have to come in for a pit stop in the next couple of laps. And it's worth bearing in mind the other teams are going to be watching this. They won't want to use those soft tyres during this race.
Hamilton on the radio saying he's losing power. What's going on? So that is a concern, because Hamilton on that last lap was 2 seconds slower.
I'm losing power, man. What's going on?
Losing a lot of speed. Jenny?
Yeah, speaking to the team, they said that he's low on battery.
Okay, so low on battery. These Formula 1 cars are hybrid, so you have the regular internal combustion engine, but you also have a battery element to it as well. So if there's some problem with the battery deployment, that's going to lose you a lot of time on the straights. Max Verstappen is leading. We're on lap 10 of 58 in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Myself, Jack Nicholls, the Formula E racer, Sam Bird and Jenny Gow with you for the next hour and a bit before, of course, we head back 230 miles the other way to Qatar for the opening match of the World Cup, which you can hear here on 5 Live from 4 o'clock. Sebastian Vettel is on the attack again, trying to get past Esteban Ocon, looking to pull the same move he did before into turn 9, not able to do it this time, and he has got...
Lando in front, Hamilton possibly has a power issue. Behind you, 3 seconds, Ocon, Vettel and Alonso squabbling a bit.
Leclerc got, dumped basically out of Ferrari after that. Struggled at Aston Martin up against Lance Stroll, and the star of Vettel was maybe sort of waning a little bit. But end of this season, Sam Bird, he's been really good to watch, and in an Aston Martin that's pretty uncompetitive, he's having a good race today in 9th place, and a racy race as well.
A racy race, he looks good out there. He's coming across a feisty Esteban Ocon though, and we know Esteban doesn't take any prisoners, won't be thinking in his head for one moment, look, Sebastian's last race, let's be kind to him. No, Esteban's there to do a job for Alpine, but it is great to see a racy Sebastian Vettel again. He's been such a force to contend with in Formula 1, and it's great to see him back enjoying the race, be it his last race in Formula 1, but he's out there doing a super job.
Turn 12, think about slower in for a better line through 13.
54 Grand Prix wins, I think 54. I mean, that's phenomenal. The 4th most winningest driver in Formula 1 history. I think he's 4th on the list on pole positions as well. We are talking about an all-time great.
4 world championships too for Sebastian Vettel, and he is still trying to pass Esteban Ocon for 8th position. Max Verstappen is leading, only 3.2 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, so he's not exactly disappearing on lap 11 of 58 in Abu Dhabi. It's 3 seconds back from Perez to Leclerc, 3 seconds from Leclerc to Sainz. Here's Sainz's radio.
The pace is good, the leg is also lower than expected.
I don't agree.
So Carlos Sainz in 4th place in the Ferrari being told your pace is good and the tyres are degrading less than we expected. Sainz is like, nah.
Well, there's one thing, there's having high deg. The other thing is having high external.
The pace is good, the leg is also lower than expected.
I don't agree.
With high surface temperatures.
George Russell on that last lap was 0.2 slower than Carlos Sainz, so the Mercedes not closing in quite so much.
Hamilton's dropped back by 2.5 seconds to George, so really Lewis is really struggling out there now. I mean, did he take a lot out of his tyre? Has he got damage on the floor, or has he got this battery issue?
Okay, so I've spoken to the team again. They say he's low on battery, and that was because of the energy that he used defending from Sainz and against Sainz, and that it should come back to him. They don't think there's any actual problem and power issue with it, but let's keep on watching that space, because he certainly doesn't seem to be going quite as quickly as he was.
No, not got much pace at all at the moment. Hamilton 0.6 of a second a lap slower than his teammate George Russell. Here comes Vettel on Ocon again, to the outside into turn 9, turns into the left-hander that's long, and he's trying to go all the way around the...
Yeah, I'm just limited with grip, obviously balance limited a bit from the front. The rear is trying to overheat now as well.
7th place in the McLaren, and we're on lap 13 of 58. Now, on that last lap as they came through, Hamilton cuts the timing beam. He was only 4 tenths slower than Russell. 3 tenths slower than Russell on that last lap. So, again, not terribly slow. Just getting a replay of him coming into turn 1 and running wide again. So, really struggling out there, Hamilton. And 10 laps ago, at the start of this Grand Prix, he was all over the back of Charles Leclerc for the podium places. So a very dramatic drop-off in pace. Into the pits comes Alex Albon in the Williams. He was running in 16th position. Here's Hamilton's radio.
Okay, copy.
Daniel, if there was a safety car now, would this car restart afterwards?
I think it would struggle a bit.
Copy.
Kind of back up the lack of pace. Fight going on still for this position. Esteban Ocon, Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso has now joined that fight. Fernando Alonso is wearing a Sebastian Vettel tribute helmet, so it's a little bit odd watching Alonso in that Alpine because he's wearing a Vettel style helmet in tribute to Vettel's final race of his Formula One career. All the drivers went out for dinner on Wednesday night, I think it was, to celebrate Vettel's last it was Thursday night, if we want to be pedantic about these things, to celebrate Vettel's last Formula One Grand Prix. And yeah, Alonso trying to attack him at the moment. Lap 14 of 58. 5 seconds now. Verstappen's lead over Perez. So suddenly on that last lap, Verstappen pulled out 0.7 of a second over Sergio Perez, and Charles Leclerc was actually half a second quicker. So Perez had a very slow lap that last time around. He was slower than everyone except Lewis Hamilton last time through. So we might be seeing Leclerc starting to come in and join the fight with Sergio Perez, and those are the two drivers fighting over second in the championship.
Makes it very interesting, doesn't it, Jack? With Max Verstappen already galloping away into an unassailable lead, what do Red Bull do now if Charles Leclerc is gaining on Perez? That's the million-dollar question. It's also really interesting to watch this fight, Jack, between Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel and Esteban Ocon, because we know Alonso and Ocon, they're not the best of friends.
Yeah.
And I think
even though they're
when
teammates,
you watch Fernando down the straight, he's actually pulling out to the side, not in the toe of Sebastian Vettel. Now that's either to cool the car or because he doesn't really want to fight Sebastian Vettel, and he'd prefer Vettel to just get past Ocon, and then Fernando can attack his teammate.
Lap 15 of 58. Leclerc is suddenly 1.3 seconds back from Sergio Perez. A shocker on that last lap from Perez. He was a second slower than Verstappen out in front and 0.8 slower than Charles Leclerc. So Perez's pace has absolutely dropped off.
At this phase, think about plan B, I don't know.
Yeah, we're looking into that, mate.
We are so slow.
That's Alonso saying how slow they are. Into the pits comes Ocon from 8th position, so that's to kind of defend against the undercut, I think, from Sebastian Vettel, because Vettel was so close that there was a chance that Aston Martin could pit first, put on the fresher set of tyres, and then come out ahead once Ocon makes a stop. It's a neat and tidy stop for Ocon. The blue Alpine pulls away after being stationary for just 2.5 seconds, and all 4 tyres changed, and out he goes again. Leclerc, through the first sector, takes another couple of tenths out of Sergio Perez, so he's almost within DRS range of the Red Bull.
Plans to come. Consider plan B.
And take that second place away from in the championship from Sergio Perez, well, both in the championship and on the road. So Verstappen's lead is now almost 6 seconds because Perez's pace has dropped off so rapidly. And again, it's another second so far on this lap that Perez has taken out of, that Leclerc has taken out of Perez.
Consider plan B.
George Russell saying his front tyres are gone. Consider plan B, whatever plan B is.
Absolutely. This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday, Jack, about Max Verstappen disappearing and Sergio in the pits.
So Sergio Perez into the pit lane. They're going to stop the Red Bull man, Lewis. George Russell also comes in for Mercedes, so they're going to do them both back-to-back. Pretty decent stop from Red Bull. What can Mercedes do? Hard tyres going on. It's a slow. The rear right is slow. They couldn't get it off. It's gone now. Oh, unsafe release is going to smash it. Oh, my goodness. It almost crashed into the McLaren. They are definitely going to get a penalty for that. That was almost a massive accident in the pit lane.
It was Daniel Ricciardo coming into the pit lane. Sorry, it was Lando Norris coming into the pit lane, and Russell's stop was 5.2 seconds. And I've not actually seen that pit lane incident because obviously Jenny was right there, but we haven't seen it on the screens yet. But Russell's lost quite a lot of time in that pit lane and may well get a penalty for it. Lap 16 of 58. Leclerc in second, Sainz in third, but the two Ferraris haven't pitted. Verstappen is leading and hasn't pitted. Perez has come out with a bit of traffic, and that could be a bit of a problem for him. Oh, and he's gone in deep into the chicane. Perez bounced over the curbs as he made the move on Sebastian Vettel, and this could be a big opportunity here, and Vettel's going to try and fight back with Sergio Perez as they come down the back straight in towards turn 9, and Vettel gets back ahead, and this is a nightmare for Perez. This has given Ferrari an open goal to pit and maybe still come out ahead of Sergio Perez. pit this time through? Comes out of the final corner. No, he doesn't. Interesting. Surely they must pit Sainz here, Ferrari. No. Stay out.
That was the perfect time to pit him. After seeing that mistake, losing a position and probably a couple of seconds, that was the perfect opportunity to bring in Charles Leclerc, put him on the hard tyres, get him ahead of Sergio Perez.
Sainz could have maybe done it as well. That's a real problem there. We're finally getting our first look at this Russell and Norris incident. So it's a slow stop, as Jenny said, on the right rear, and then, oh yeah, Norris had to hammer on the brakes.
Caution. Yeah, all good, I saw him.
All good, I saw him, says Russell. I don't know if I buy that. That could well be an unsafe release penalty for George Russell, I fear. And then...
Caution. Yeah, all good, I saw him.
Sebastian Vettel, and he's now finally getting back past Vettel, and now Sainz is going to pit for Ferrari. But that was one of those where if you're on your toes at Ferrari, you had a chance of nabbing the position there.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember they've got more telemetry than we've got, and they've got a lot of clever people working on it. So maybe they've seen something that we haven't with regards to sector time.
I've said that a lot of times this year about Ferrari.
Yeah, okay, fine. But they do. They're employees of Ferrari, and they're paid to do what they do because they're better than me and you, Jack, at doing strategy. I'm surprised by it, but at least they're in now. The Perez thing about going deep, you know, he's had now 17 laps on a set of mediums, so going to the hard tyre, braking at the same point, it's very difficult to brake at the same point as Carlos.
What's up with this walking in turn 6?
Yeah, we'll check.
He filters out. This will be very, very tight, I think.
Come out behind Perez. Perez comes past him. Interesting that they pitted Sainz first, considering he was further back, unless they're going to extend Leclerc by quite a long margin, and Leclerc wants to go longer, potentially, and he's happy with his tyres. What's his pace doing? 31.4, so he's still slow. Perez on that last lap did a 30.2. He's matching Verstappen's pace at the moment, Charles Leclerc, even though he's 7.6 seconds behind him. But this isn't, I don't think this is going to gain him track position, but they're trying to play the long game here, I think, Ferrari, and put themselves in a better position towards the end of the Grand Prix, is my summation.
Yeah, well, if he pits now, if he continues on this pace with Sergio Perez hammering around on the new hards, it looks like he's going to be coming out behind Sergio Perez.
Tyre update, Daniel.
Yeah, front right, just progressively getting worse. Just all the rolling corners. I can get to plan A. Just more a question of pace.
He hasn't done it this time either. Hamilton will be coming into the pits this time around. It's 1:30 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. This is the season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final race of the Formula One year. Second place in the championship is up for grabs. World Cup starting a little bit later on today, which you can hear here on 5 Live. Jenny Gow's in the pit lane as Hamilton pits.
Yep, he's gone from the medium tyres onto the hard tyre, the white banded ones. It wasn't particularly rapid, but it was relatively conservative. Let's see how long he'll be able to go on these tyres then. The hard tyres, still a question. Could they last a little bit longer than expected? We shall see.
So that incident with George Russell for his unsafe release is under investigation.
I think the floor's broken.
Hamilton saying, I think the floor's broken. After, on the opening lap, he went over a curb while he was...
I think the floor's broken.
Enough. Carlos Sainz is, meanwhile, having to fight his way back past Fernando Alonso. The two Spaniards, both fans of Real Madrid, so both will probably be trying to have a nice early debrief finish to watch the opening game of the World Cup, but they've managed to get ahead. Carlos Sainz up into 5th position, Alonso down to 6th, but Alonso hasn't stopped yet. What did you do? England in the Euros, you won the Formula E race in New York City, and then what was the England game that evening? Or was it like straight after?
It was
straight
pretty much,
after.
yeah. I went from the press conference after winning as Carlos Sainz looked down the inside of Sebastian Vettel, but doesn't quite do it approaching the hotel. He's really all over the back of the Aston Martin driver now. Yeah, I went from the press conference to the lounge and watched England unfortunately just lose out.
So
Sebastian, can I have an aero balance check? Alonso's 1.2.
Down 1 or 2 clicks. Copy. Maybe 1 click down.
For Alpine. So did you skip the engineering meetings after the race? Were you just like, guys, we're not doing it, I'm watching the World Cup?
I told them politely that I would not be missing this match. And that I would do the debrief afterwards.
It was the Euros final, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah. Then unfortunately lost it.
Yeah. Lap 20 of 58. In the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, 7.3 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's still staying out there. Sainz is overtaking Sebastian Vettel, so he's now back up into 4th position. And we're on lap 20 of 58. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, just on Alonso, obviously today is his last race for the team as the Red Bull team come out into the pit lane to box Max Verstappen. I'll talk you through that when he comes in. But I wonder how much of a debrief you do when you're leaving your team to go to a rival team. He'll start work for Aston Martin tomorrow. Max Verstappen's Red Bull flashes past. He's on the yellow banded medium tyres. They lift him up into the air, put on his new tyres, slightly slow, only a little bit, but he heads back out. I can't see, I'm assuming it's on the hard tyres because everybody's come in and put the hard tyres on.
Do you know what, Jenny? After Michael Schumacher did his final ever race in Brazil 2012, he still did the ultimate professional thing, still did a big debrief with the team. There was no case of, look, I'm retiring, I'm not going to bother. He sat down with the team. We spoke for well over an hour about the race, his car, what they need to do to improve for next year. So for sure, I think these guys will still go.
Podcast after the race today. You know, we're professionals.
Well,
are you not? Are you bailing out of that one as well?
What do you mean bailing out of that one as well? I don't bail out of it.
Stay on the management. That's bang on the lap time.
This is what you want.
Spot on.
Charles Leclerc is going to be coming into the pits on this lap. Russell has just got ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Russell's 5-second penalty will be served at his next pit stop. So when he comes in again, if he comes in again, which I think he will, but if he does, he will have to wait 5 seconds before the team can put new tyres on the car.
So this is interesting. Perez has obviously pitted a lot earlier than Max Verstappen, has come out just behind Max. Max had a really comfortable, healthy lead.
7.5 seconds.
7.5 seconds. So Perez has obviously come back at him as Charles Leclerc comes into the pits.
Jenny?
Yep, so he swings into his pit box. Oh, it's another slow start for Ferrari. He's put on the hard tyres, but that was not the quickest I've seen so far today.
3 seconds.
Okay, good outlap DR. Gasly 1 point. Correction, I don't have a gap on Gasly. Car ahead is Schumacher.
With Verstappen ahead of Perez by 1.5 seconds. But now we're going to see how much pace advantage. In fact, Sainz is going to... Yeah, we thought this may happen. And is it going to happen? Sainz, is he going to get ahead of his teammate Leclerc here? No, not quite. So Leclerc stays ahead of Sainz, crucially, for the time being. But Sainz is going to be in DRS range. Are the two Ferraris allowed to fight it out? 3rd and 4th at the moment. Leclerc ahead of Sainz. Is Sainz going to be on the attack as they come down the back straight towards the chicane? Leclerc holds the middle of the road and Sainz noses to the inside but isn't quite able to make the move there. Now heading towards turn 9. Leclerc's much better on the power actually coming out of turn 9, so I think Sainz is going to be too far back. So the question is now going to be, Perez pitted 6 laps before Charles Leclerc. So Charles Leclerc's tyres are 6 laps fresher than Sergio Perez is. Can he close in and overtake? That's the tyre offset that Ferrari are trying to do here on the Red Bulls. So that's going to be the big question. Max Verstappen's lead is just over a second, 1.5 seconds over Sergio Perez as they come across the line. And then it is Charles Leclerc in 3rd position. It is 4th for Carlos Sainz. Leclerc is 6 seconds back from Perez and 8 seconds back from Verstappen in the lead. So 6 seconds is the gap that Leclerc needs to close in on Sergio Perez. Well, maybe a bit less if he wants to then try and undercut him at the next round of pit stops. Sainz will be trying to stay with him, but he's on the older tyres. Russell is in 5th position. 6th is Sebastian Vettel, but he's yet to pit, having started on the mediums. Hamilton is in 7th, Norris is in 8th, Ocon is in 9th, Stroll is in 10th, Bottas is in 11th, pitted, Tsunoda is...
So looking strong to George, only turn 3 management is the loss. But just be mindful, right-hand side tyres, look after them.
20 drivers. So, Vettel the only driver yet to have pitted. Everyone else is on the hard tyre. We'll see what Leclerc can do. Jenny.
Yeah, that is apart from Magnussen, who started obviously on the hard tyre, and Bottas. So they're yet to pit, but doing a different strategy to everybody else. And people will be looking at their tyres to see just how they're degrading, what they can expect. Vettel slipping down 1 place. I think Hamilton's just got past him. He's on 22 lap-old mediums, going longer than anybody else.
So, Verstappen leading the way. Fernando Alonso is suddenly going 3 wide with Yuki Tsunoda and Valtteri Bottas down into the chicane. They're all fighting over 11th place, and Tsunoda is now trying to fight back on Alonso, and he's managed to sweep around the outside, so Tsunoda gets back through. Not quite sure why these two are together on the road, to be honest, because...
George, we have a 5-second penalty for unsafe release to serve it at the next pit stop.
Alright, if we've got to take 5-second penalty, we need to go long.
Did they not pit at the same time? I swear they pitted at the same time. All very close to each other.
We have a 5-second penalty for unsafe release. We'll have to serve it at the next pit stop.
Alright, if we've got to take 5-second penalty, we need to go long.
Russell saying if we've got a 5-second penalty, we need to go long. Tsunoda pitted on lap 14, Alonso pitted on lap 19.
Okay.
And Tsunoda pitted when Ocon pitted, and obviously Ocon and Alonso were right together, but now Alonso's a long way back from his teammate, about 10 seconds back from Ocon when he was right behind him before. So going long in the early stint, or the first stint, hasn't necessarily worked out for the drivers that are doing it.
And you look at Sebastian Vettel now, he's still on the medium tyre going round. It's clear that they want to try and make the one-stop strategy work, but he's being left out to dry a little bit now. The pace is nowhere near where it needs to be, as we see Fernando Alonso throwing some shapes at Yuki Tsunoda there into the first chicane down the back straight. I think that he's probably going to have a go, Jack, down into the long sweeping left-hander. DRS open, down the inside. Job done by Fernando. Great job.
Tsunoda, I thought, was coming across to close the door there, but Alonso makes it through, and he is now up into 11th place. So that's the thing, the hope has got to be for those that went longer and lost the positions, that they now have more pace in this second stint of the Grand Prix. Lap 25 of 58. We're having a look at Lando Norris, and he is on the back. Oh, this is him passing Sebastian Vettel. So again, as you said, Vettel on the mediums, starting to lose out to drivers that were around him. Norris has pitted. Norris was ahead of Vettel, but not by a huge amount, and he's now pitted and then caught back up to him and got ahead of him. So we'll see what this ends up being for Sebastian Vettel. Maybe he's trying for a one-stop.
Absolutely. We just saw a glimpse of Usher, the R&B artist in the garage. Have you ever been to see Usher live at concert? Just out of interest?
Yeah.
It's the worst. We're just getting eaten up by everybody. Who's next to pass us? Sitting duck.
We're watching, Sebastian. These are 2 stoppers.
Well, there's the answer then. So Vettel being told it's all right, these are 2 stoppers. So they appear to be doing a one-stopper.
I think that maybe Aston Martin have miscalculated this. I think that with the hard compound tyre on, quite a few people will be aiming to get to the end. So all these are lost positions for Sebastian Vettel. Of course, he is going for the one-stop. Yet to see what other people are doing. But I believe a lot of people will be trying now to get the hard tyre to the end, especially...
It's the worst. We're just getting eaten up by everybody. Who's next to pass us? Sitting duck.
We're watching, Sebastian. These are 2 stoppers.
But Max Verstappen leads, 2.3 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez. Third is Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. 4 seconds now, the gap between Perez and Leclerc. It was over 6 initially when he came out of the pits. So Leclerc is closing in on him, and Sebastian Vettel is pitting now from the mediums onto the hards. The 2 Mercedes, Jenny, running in 5th and 6th. Hamilton.
Yeah, and on Hamilton, just a reminder, he's got a broken floor, he thinks. He's told the team that. He says it's broken around the bib area. So I just wonder how much that will impact his race plan that they had.
A very odd moment here for Sebastian Vettel. He came out of the pits and then hammered on the brakes as he got towards the pit exit line. Do you think maybe he forgot to have the pit limiter on?
Oh, Sebastian, not in your final race.
Current deltas are only in areas of management. Just keep it up, Max.
But let's hope it's not that. But I'm assuming that that's what it was. Going back to my Usher point.
Oh, yes.
So you have seen him in concert?
No, I was just doing a joke.
Oh,
because
okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the joke. It's the only Usher song I've got in my repertoire, I think.
Well, Confessions, I've been seeing him twice. So Confessions is another song of his.
Oh, right, okay, that went over my head.
Yeah, and he's very good. I just thought I'd say.
Were they freebies or did you pay the money?
No, one of them was a freebie on a family holiday. He was playing at New Year's Eve in the Cancun. And the other one I went to go and see in London. But he is always, we see the hats all over the back of the AlphaTauri.
Magnussen and Gasly fighting it out over 17th position. So a tough day for them.
He is a guy that can really throw some shapes.
Really?
He's very, very cool. Here we go, replay of...
And you can push in the high speed for tires.
Oh, I don't know what that was. I need you to describe that as the ex-driver, because the limiter was on and then suddenly it's kind of like it over-revved. I don't know what that was.
No, that was really strange. I'm expecting a banner to come up saying overspeeding in the pit lane, though.
Yeah, interesting. Lap 27 of 58. Verstappen leading. Perez second. Leclerc third. The gap down to 3.8 seconds. On that last lap, actually, there was not much in it between Perez and Leclerc. Sainz was actually quicker than Leclerc, but only fractionally. And then it is Russell in 5th, Hamilton 6th, Norris in 7th, Ocon 8th, Stroll 9th, Fernando Alonso 10th. Then 11th is Tsunoda, 12th is Albon, 13th is Joe, 14th is Bottas, 15th is Ricciardo, Schumacher, Gasly, Magnussen, Vettel and Latifi, the top 20. And Vettel is 19th.
Yeah, look at, he was battling with Esteban Ocon for 8th place about 15 laps ago. And we were thinking he's having a great final Grand Prix. He finds himself, 9 places down from where he was. The undercut is so powerful around here. I think leaving him out was not the right call right now. But let's see what other people do. If they are all two-stopping, then he has a chance.
Yeah, very interesting to see how this race unfolds for Sebastian Vettel. He's not the only one on a one-stopper. Bottas is as well. Alonso's already in for his second pit stop. So Fernando Alonso pits from 10th position. So maybe they have seen how strong the undercut is and want to get it. Oh, he's out of the race. Alonso's retiring from the Grand Prix.
Have to retire the car.
We have to retire the car, is the message to Fernando Alonso. And fitting that his final race with Alpine ends in a mechanical retirement, because that has been the story of his season.
It's not surprising, is it? He's had one of those years. He's shown amazing pace in that Alpine. He's really dominated.
Have to retire the car.
Will finish up in front of him in the championship, purely based on the fact that Fernando Alonso's had so many retirements and DNFs through no fault of his own, really.
Yeah. Sebastian Vettel's on the chart, coming back up through the field now after making that pit stop. His first person he's picking off is Pierre Gasly and going back up into 16th position. Just over 2 hours till the World Cup starts here on 5 Live. We'll be with you for the remainder of this Grand Prix. We're at half race distance now, so we'll be with you for another 50 minutes or so, and then we will be returning to all of the build-up in Qatar ahead of the World Cup. And also earlier on today, John Rahm won the DP World Tour Championship Golf by 2 shots, and Rory McIlroy secured the DP World Tour #1 spot. Sam Bird, the Jaguar Formula E driver, alongside myself, Jack Nicholls, in comment.
So I started with a ton of understeer. Now it's the opposite because I opened all the switches.
Copy that. Shows you've got control.
No, I don't have control.
Car coming into the pit lane, it's one of the Haas cars as it goes past me. Kevin Magnussen coming in for his first pit stop. He started on the hard tyre, so you can get 28 laps on full fuel on a hard tyre at the beginning of this race. Just to say, I've spoken to Pirelli. They reckon anyone who pitted around lap 20 to 22-ish and post that can make this into a one-stop if they put the hard on.
Here's Perez's radio.
I've been held up by Max. Copy.
Really? Perez saying he's being held up by his teammate Max Verstappen. He's 2 seconds back from him. He will be feeling a bit of sort of dirty air effects at that point, but
I don't think you can say that if you're 2 seconds back. If you're 1 second back and chipping away at the DRS range, then...
Kayuki Friere is doing 31.2, gaining mid to exit turn 1, mid to exit turn 5.
Yeah. Can't do it.
Did do the fastest lap so far. So Charles Leclerc is coming back at Perez.
Yeah, he is now just 2.5 seconds back. So just going on that info that Jenny said, anyone that pitted around, what did you say, 22 to 25? Well, Verstappen pitted on lap 20, Leclerc pitted on lap 21. They were the latest of the pit stoppers other than Vettel. So that feels tough for them to make it a one-stopper, but we'll wait and see. It's closing up at the front. Verstappen's lead is 2.2 seconds, ahead of Sergio Perez in second place, and then it's 2.6 back to...
Red Bull driving for a one-stop. They are on a one-stop.
So that's Sainz saying to the team, he reckons the reason Red Bull...
Red Bull driving for a one-stop. They are on a one-stop.
It's calling it that Red Bulls are on a one-stop and the Ferraris are on a two-stop, but Perez pitted on lap 15, so that would be a real tough one to make it into a one-stop, because we've only just gone past half-race distance. Sebastian Vettel is fighting Valtteri Bottas, who locks up, goes wide, and hands the position to Vettel pretty easily. But this is interesting, because if Red Bull are on a one-stop, then Ferrari aren't in this race at all.
The compromised strategy right now is on Sergio Perez. He's pitted in that sort of awkward window. It's not a two-stop, but it's not a one-stop. What do Red Bull do now? Because his teammate is out in front. I don't think he's going to protect him. He's got the two Ferraris coming towards him. Now, Ferrari could, if Perez pits, Ferrari will extend. And if Perez does, do Ferrari come in? That's the interesting thing now.
Yeah. So Ferrari are getting in that region where they might be able to undercut Perez at the next round of pit stops, but only if there is a next round of pit stops for Red Bull, as you say. So fascinating stuff going on at the front of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen leading, Perez is in second place, Leclerc is third, Sainz is fourth. Russell is not out of it currently either. He's in fifth position, 3 seconds back from the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. So they're all in the same kind of ballpark, and it certainly seems, well, to be fair, actually, Russell is a bit out of it because he's got that 5-second time penalty, hasn't he? So that's going to be a problem for Russell after an unsafe release in the pit lane. Lap 32 of 58, final Formula One Grand Prix of the season in Abu Dhabi. And
I don't want to pit too early.
Sergio Perez would finish second in the championship, and it would be a Red Bull 1-2 in the championship standing, something they've never achieved before, which is remarkable when you think about it. Here's Russell's radio.
I don't want to pit too early.
And he doesn't want to pit too early, Russell.
Well, you say that, George, but the undercut is very, very powerful. So just think about that.
We'll pass the message on.
Yeah, please do. I'll text Ricardo, his engineer, and see what he says.
You got his number?
Somewhere.
Do you?
Somewhere, yeah.
Did you work together?
He used to engineer me in the Ricky days, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's gone up in the...
You're with us. Lap 32 of 58, Jenny Gao.
Just to give you an update, Fernando Alonso has retired from this race. It was a suspected water leak that made his 6th, I believe, retirement of this season, his last race.
Starting to struggle with ice.
Somewhere else is Aston Martin that he is heading to next year, taking Sebastian Vettel's seat and joining Lance Stroll there. Now, Charles Leclerc is about to set one of the fastest laps of the Grand Prix. Comes through the final corner, does a 29.795, which is only 0.05 slower than the best lap of the race, and the gap has come down to 1.5 seconds.
Starting to struggle with tires.
Carlos Sainz is starting to struggle with the tyres a little bit, but Leclerc is getting into attack range now on Perez, and Verstappen on that last lap went 4 tenths quicker than Perez. So Perez is starting to fall into the clutches here of Charles Leclerc in 3rd position. And if they both have one more pit stop to make, then Leclerc's looking in a good spot here, whether to overtake Perez on track or to do the undercut. But if Perez is going to the end of the Grand Prix on this set of tyres, which I just can't buy, considering he pitted on lap 15 on the mediums, but if he is, then it's going to be tough for Leclerc.
This sounds really silly, but I think right now Charles Leclerc is in a better position than Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
And that's silly to say, considering the Red Bulls are 1st and 2nd, and you would say that because of that they're in the driving seat, but I don't think they are. I think Sergio Perez right now looks a little bit vulnerable, and look at the way that Charles Leclerc is closing in.
And box opposite Red Bull.
Okay, so Leclerc being told box opposite Red Bull. If the Red Bull comes in, stay out. If he comes in, you come in. And it's Perez in. Jenny.
Yes, he comes into his pit box. The Red Bull mechanics lift the car up into the air. They have another set of the new hard tyres that go on.
We think we're good on front 10 now.
Much more like it for Sergio Perez. Now, what do Ferrari do? Because if they extend again the same they did the first time around, then they're just going to be in the same situation again. But I guess that's their only option, is to go for another 6 laps and try and do the same trick again.
Well, now Ferrari have got to react, I think. You know, they've either got to come in this lap and then go toe-to-toe with Sergio Perez, or do you be brave and go, do you know what, we're going to box Carlos Sainz, but we're going to keep Charles Leclerc out there and see if he can get to the end, see if he can try and take that 2nd place in the race.
Tyres, he pitted 6 laps later than Perez first time around, so if he pits on around lap 40, he's basically doing the same strategy, just with an offset, and his tyres will be fresher for the final stint of the Grand Prix. So that's the thing to keep an eye on.
Let me know if I'm plan A or not for the pushing.
Confirm plan A. Confirm plan A.
By the end of the race. Now that's an awful lot of time, especially when Perez's tyres do start to degrade.
Well, it's the fight for 2nd in the Grand Prix. It's also the fight for 2nd in the championship. Here's Verstappen's radio.
Okay, Max, so we need increased tyre management. Increased tyre management, please.
They are catching. What do you want me to do? Like, they can then get close.
You are 4 tenths faster than Leclerc in sector 2.
So Verstappen being told, we need you to manage the tyres more. We need you to now, is that to slow down and hold them up, or is that just to make sure he can go longer into the Grand Prix? What's that?
It's a bit of a double message. I think that is a case of if we can get Charles Leclerc to slow down a little bit, get in the dirty air, but also we are aiming for a 1-stop here.
So on the green switch, show us your pushing level.
Man, it's not afraid of a season. I'm not hanging around. Push as hard as I can.
So Russell saying he's pushing as hard as he can. He's only 2.8 seconds back from Carlos Sainz. Again, he's got that 5-second penalty to take in the pit stops, George Russell. He's 1.8 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who's in 5th position. I don't think Verstappen can go to the end. I don't think Verstappen can go to the end on these hards. I don't think any of them can, but we're about to find out, that's for sure.
We'll find out in 23 laps time.
Correct. So Verstappen leading, 5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in 2nd. Then it's 5.4 seconds back to Carlos Sainz in 3rd. George Russell is in 4th in the Mercedes. 5th is Lewis Hamilton. 6th is Sergio Perez, but he's the first and only of the front runners to have made his 2nd pit stop. He was running in 2nd place at the time. There's a fight going on between Daniel Ricciardo and Alex Albon over 11th position, and Ricciardo...
And try to reach higher throttle out for 30 or driving to improve across cars.
Turn 9 and almost hit the back of the Williams. It wasn't really an overtaking move, but they kind of had different lines through the corner and it led them to nearly colliding.
I think he thought Albon was going to wash out a little bit more mid-corner and then he was going to show his nose at that point, but Albon's car continued to rotate, so that caught Daniel by surprise a little bit. Charles Leclerc?
Question, can you keep this pace with plan C?
Yes, I think.
Okay, copy that.
I'm saying plan C is a one-stop.
Okay,
I'm saying plan C is a one-stop.
Maybe. I will subscribe to that. Can you keep this pace? And we do plan C, and Leclerc reckons he can. So that's interesting. We'll see whether that is what occurs. Verstappen leading the Grand Prix, 5 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Sainz in third. Hamilton.
If I was doing this tire again, I need to take a lower lap off. Struggling with the rear.
Yeah, on Russell, he will have to pit again, and when he does, he has to serve a 5-second penalty, plus he's only got a medium to go on to. He's used up his hard, had 2 medium allocations, and there's a couple of drivers with variance. It's worth looking at this, because mediums for Verstappen if he comes in, and also for Hamilton, whereas for the other drivers, like for Perez, Leclerc and Sainz, if they come in, they've only got the hards to go on to. So it is a bit of a different... They've all got softs, but they don't want to go on those.
Yeah, I think that could be the key part with Verstappen as well, is if they're not asking for more tire management for a one-stopper, they might be asking for more tire management so that they can do 20 laps on the mediums, because we're not... Although we've already got less than 20 laps to go, so mediums would make it to the end of the Grand Prix now, because they did 20 laps on them to start with.
Expecting Leclerc to go to the end. Give you a limit.
So Perez being told we're expecting Charles Leclerc to go to the end on these tyres. So that is what Red Bull are thinking now. So Sergio Perez, this is going to be tough for Perez. He's 18 seconds back from Charles Leclerc, and he's got to close in 18 seconds in 22 laps.
21 laps. 21 laps. This is what I was saying, Jay. This is now a tall order. Ferrari have, for one of the rare times of this season, maybe called a bit of a masterclass here. This is going to be really interesting. Does Sergio Perez have what it takes to charge Charles Leclerc down in the final stages of this race?
This is going to be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Jenny.
You're happy with my management? Yeah, this lap time's spot on. 19.2.
Your engineer this morning, and he was saying we don't get enough data to actually know what the tyres are really going to do when it comes to a race distance, so they have to guess a lot of this work, and that means there's a difference of opinion with how many stops you need. Was it a 1? Was it a 2? We'll find out what strategy is at the end of the race.
So at the moment, Perez is going quicker than Leclerc.
But not enough, Jack. On that last lap, it was only 0.7 of a second. Realistically, he needs to be a second to a second and a half every lap. And Perez has got to clear both Mercedes cars.
So the laps before that, it was 0.8 seconds, then 1 second quicker. And as they come across the line now, 1.2 seconds quicker on that last lap. A 30.2 for Leclerc, a 29.0 for Perez. But you do see, you start off when you have the initial advantage, you can do a second a lap. You don't keep that pace advantage for 22 laps quite often. Gradually the pace difference gets less and less. So Perez needs to be a second a lap quicker every lap, and as soon as he starts being 0.6 a lap quicker, won't be enough. But will Leclerc's tyres just disappear at the end of the Grand Prix? That's going to be the thing. I think it will require Leclerc's tyres to die, and off in the wall. Schumacher and Latifi have collided. Latifi in the barriers in Abu Dhabi, but he's managed to get going again. He's got damage to the rear. I don't think this will bring out a safety car because both cars are driving. The rear wing done on Latifi's car, so I think he'd be advised to drive a little bit slower. Certainly looks like it's down on the left to me, but they have collided into the left-hander of turn 5, and they were fighting over 16th position, and both of them in their final Formula 1 race for the time.
Yeah, that was a shot.
Yeah, that car's got going now, Max.
You see what happens. Now Hamilton's right behind Russell for 4th position, and Russell did say a few laps ago, if you want to pit Hamilton first, that's fine by me. And in fact, Hamilton's closing in on Russell turn 9. Russell defends it into the long left-hander. 1.2 seconds again on that last lap was Perez's pace advantage over Charles Leclerc. So the gap comes down a little more. Leave their way now under the... Perez, though, has just had a lap time deleted for track limits. If you go over the track limits, then you get a warning. But if you do it too many times, then you do end up getting a penalty. So that's something that he needs to be careful of. Sainz is in the pits, as is George Russell. And it'll be a 5-second wait for Russell before they can change the tyres, which is going to feel like an eternity. Sainz heads out on a new set of mediums, so we'll see what he can get up to in the remainder of this Grand Prix. Lap 40 of 58, 2 hours till the first World Cup game of the season, which will bring you here on 5 Live, of course. But we've got the conclusion of the Formula 1 season to go before we head to Qatar versus Ecuador. Out onto the circuit comes Carlos Sainz. He's behind Lando Norris, and Norris, though, hasn't made a second pit stop, so before too long Sainz will be able to cut him. So Verstappen's lead up at the front is now 7 seconds over Charles Leclerc. So he was asked to do tyre management and basically slow down a bit, but he's still extending his gap to Charles Leclerc up front.
Yeah, Max Verstappen is not in the conversation today.
Don't leave me on a one, mate.
That's Hamilton saying to Pete Bonington, his engineer, don't leave me on a one stop.
No, but the front two.
Don't leave me on a one, mate.
I'm assuming they're both going to try and do the one stop, because if Max Verstappen comes in, Charles Leclerc can try a one-stop and potentially win the race, and then it's game over for as we see a replay of Mick Schumacher and Latifi. For me, that's Mick Schumacher's fault, Jack.
It's a very lame collision, isn't it? It's very lame. Schumacher behind Latifi. I think he was on fresher tyres than Latifi. He was late on the brakes and was just trying to get as close as possible through turn 5, and almost on the exit of the corner has just rolled into him and just nudged them both into a spin. That's it's lame. You know what I mean? It's just, by that I just mean just clumsy and uncomfortable,
unnecessary, and it's not a racing incident. I think Mick's got to take responsibility for that. But yeah, if Max comes in, he's effectively.
So let us know how balance is.
Balance is pretty good. Quite happy with it. Just want to offset as much as possible.
Yeah. Or his teammate Sergio Perez.
But Perez has still got to find a lot of time, Jack.
Agreed, but if Verstappen pits, it could be one of those two that takes the win. So Verstappen almost maybe has to try and stay out now for the remainder of the Grand Prix if they think the Ferrari is not pitting. Because also you get to that point on the graph, don't you, where you can pit, but you haven't got enough time left in the race to close in again.
That's going to be coming up thick and fast now with 16 laps to go. I would say if either of them wanted a pit, now's probably your best shot.
And that's why Hamilton's saying, don't leave me out on a one stop, because he knows it's getting to crunch time, basically, as to whether he makes that second pit stop or not. So, Verstappen leading the Grand Prix, 7 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, and then it's 8 seconds back to Hamilton in 3rd position.
What are your thoughts at this stage?
I'm okay for now.
Understood.
I think last 10 laps will be critical.
Copy.
11 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. Here's Verstappen's radio.
What are your thoughts at this stage?
I'm okay for now.
Understood.
I think last 10 laps will be critical.
Copy.
So Verstappen saying he's okay for now staying out there, but the last 10 laps will be critical. And Perez on that last lap did a 29.1. It was only 9 tenths quicker than Leclerc that time through. and Leclerc, Verstappen and Hamilton all doing the same lap time, all doing a 1:30.0. So, again, Perez is on a quick lap this time through, but 9/10 when you're 11 seconds back with 15 laps to go, or 16 laps to go, that is enough. But it's
at this pace, we're gonna catch Leclerc.
Yeah, we're catching him. We're catching him. This pace is good.
Continues this pace, taking into account if Lewis doesn't pit, have to fight Lewis Hamilton. Now that could take 2 corners, it could take 3 or 4 laps. That could be the difference.
At this pace, we're gonna catch Leclerc.
Yeah, we're catching him. This pace is good.
So Perez asking at this pace, will we catch Leclerc? And the team saying, yeah, we're catching him. They didn't really fully commit to saying we will catch him at this pace, but it is looking good for Perez. I'm still, like I say, what did he do on that last lap? A 29.1, a second quicker than Leclerc again. This is going to be tight, because it's also, if Hamilton's staying out there, how easy will it be for Perez to get ahead of Hamilton? How much time will Perez lose behind Hamilton? That could be the key part of this as well, as they fight Leclerc and Perez for second in the championship and second in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah, now I almost want to take back what I said about 5 laps ago. Maybe Leclerc did need, because Perez is coming at him at quite an alarming rate now, and the speed difference between the two does suggest that by the end of the race, Sergio will be on the back of Charles Leclerc and should be easy pickings. It's too late now, I think, for Leclerc to come in and change tyres. I think that by that point he'd be too far behind with not enough of a pace deficit.
I just wonder if this is extreme tyre management from Charles Leclerc at the moment. He's controlling his pace, looking after those tyres so that he knows when the fight does come and he has to do some serious defending, because by the sounds of it, it will come. He's got enough left to just be able to hold on, but hold on, it sounds like it will be.
Yeah.
I don't think I will come back if we both.
We believe we will get overtaken at the end of the race.
Stroll.
I don't think I will come back if we both.
We believe we will get overtaken at the end of the race.
So Leclerc being told, we believe we'll get overtaken. So I think Ferrari are trying to pit him, because he's saying, I don't think I'll come back if.
But that leaves him in no man's land.
Yeah,
absolute no man's land again.
But they've got to just, you've come this far, you've got to commit to the one stopper, because he's not going to catch Perez that quickly if he pits now with 15 laps to go.
Ferrari have made the bed, they've got to now sleep in it.
Yeah, lap 44 of 58. Verstappen leading 7.2 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Then it's 9 seconds back to Hamilton. So Perez is now within 10 seconds of Charles Leclerc with 15 laps to go. That last race he was 6/10 quicker than Leclerc, which again would be enough, and it depends how.
Travis, stop talking to me corners, please. I know what to do now, leave me alone, please.
Real chance Ferrari to take that second place at that first round of pit stops, when Perez had a slow stop, then came out in traffic, then had a bit of a mistake and a lock-up and lost a lot of time, and that could have been the big moment for Ferrari to pounce and get ahead of Perez. They're at the moment, but Perez is on fresher tyres and closing in. He's now right behind Lewis Hamilton. Through the left-hander, here's Perez.
Can't lose time here. Catch and pass, Hamilton. Catch and pass. Get it done.
You can't lose time here is the message to Perez. You've got to get ahead of Hamilton for third place as soon as possible. And he's closing in on the Mercedes driver now. The sun has set in Abu Dhabi. The floodlights illuminating the circuit as Perez goes to the inside and dives past Hamilton for third position. Bit of a lock-up on the left front, but he gets it stopped. And Sergio Perez is up into third place, although Hamilton gets a really nice drive.
Okay, Lance, just focus forward. Joe's already 1.9 behind. Just focus forward.
RS, he goes to the outside. Is he going to get back ahead? Yes, he is. Hamilton gets back ahead into turn 9. So Perez is losing time behind Hamilton, and that will be delighting the Ferrari team, because every little second is going to count. Perez not ahead of Hamilton.
This was the worry that I had a couple of laps ago for Sergio. You know, Hamilton is a smooth operator, very difficult to pass, will take any opportunities. And again, Sergio's made a small mistake at the chicane. And it's really costing him. These small errors are really affecting his race right now.
Lap 46 of 58, that's Sam Bird, the Jaguar Formula E racer. Alongside me, Jack Nicholls, down in the pit lane in Abu Dhabi, Jenny Gow.
And I think all the engineers will be wary of a safety car now, a late safety car with around 10 laps or less to go in this race. Could blow it away again because we'll get stoppers. They will go onto the soft compound tyre and they will try and sprint to the end and overtake as many as possible. But that means a safety car needs to come out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing with the safety car is even if no one gets a free pit stop, suddenly the gap is closed between Perez and Leclerc, and then they're on fresher tyres. Now, Perez isn't quite as close to Hamilton as he was last time through, but he's still going to go for it. No. So Perez this time bides his time, doesn't go for the move into turn 6 and 7, but instead tries to line himself up. Hamilton's getting great drive out of the chicane, and if he covers the inside coming down into turn 9, he might be able to hold Perez back. Here comes Perez in the Red Bull, fighting over third place, but he's got the inside into turn 9. Hamilton doesn't fight him too hard in the end, and Perez gets the inside line, gets up into third position, and now has got 10 seconds to close to Charles Leclerc in 12 laps. That is the fight for second in the championship and second in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This is going to be close.
And Lando, that's strike 2, track limits, turn 1.
By holding him up for 2 or 3 laps. I mean, it's going to be that close, Jack. We've got, as you said, we've got 10 seconds between the two fighting for second in the World Championship. This is going down to the wire.
And for example, last lap, even in the fighting, Perez was able to take a good chunk of time out of Leclerc, 0.8 of a second, but he did have DRS and some slipstream, so that would have helped him on that front. This is going to be really, really fascinating. Can Charles Leclerc in second place hold on to that second place? Whoever finishes ahead out of Leclerc and Perez will finish second in the World Championship. Max Verstappen wrapped it up a few months ago, but they're having a pretty entertaining end of the season in Abu Dhabi, which is not always the case, honestly, but this is a good one. Max Verstappen leading now, 8 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Jenny, can Max do anything to help his teammate?
Well, this is what I was going to lob into the conversation.
Yeah, tyres are good. Just tell Checo to go full set. The tyres will be fine.
Understood.
What you can do right now to try and help?
Well, Max Verstappen?
Yeah, tyres are good. Just tell Checo to go full set. The tyres will be fine.
Understood.
In other words, no, he's not going to help. Yeah. I mean, he could slow down and block Leclerc, knowing that his car is quicker in a straight line, knowing that he's got the car underneath him to overtake Charles Leclerc again if he wanted to, and create a bit of a fight going to let Sergio Perez catch up and then go, do you know what, boys, you guys fight it out. He could do that, but I don't see him doing that, Jenny.
Right, last lap. They come across the line, and Perez is a second quicker than Charles Leclerc. The gap's down to 8.4 seconds now, with 11 laps to go. Well, 10.5 laps to go. Verstappen is out in front, 8 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in second place, looking to take his 15th win of the World Championship season. Max Verstappen already has the record for the most wins in a season, and he could notch up another here. There's a fight going on behind him on track, but a long way behind him in the... Oh no, that's Joe slowing down. Oh, he's getting out of the way. So Joe getting out of the way of Charles Leclerc, and he is currently fighting Mick Schumacher for 15th position. The top 10 is Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Hamilton, Sainz.
Are we too late to stop?
So we dropped to P6, but maybe battling back 5.
Hamilton saying, are we too late to stop? He didn't want to be on a one-stop. He is on a one-stop. He's still saying, are we too late to stop? And the team saying, we'd come out, we'd maybe get back up into 5th place. How far ahead is Hamilton of Sainz? It's a long way ahead. He's 10, well, actually, it's identical. He's 10 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz with 10 laps to go.
Are we too late to stop?
So we dropped to P6, but maybe battling back to P5.
Leclerc does a personal best lap of the Grand Prix. He does his personal best lap of the race in second place, and Sergio Perez was only half a second quicker. So maybe Leclerc has just been managing, and then unleashing with 10 laps to go. Maybe that's what we're seeing now from the Ferrari.
Oh, it's going to be so close.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, we don't have too many really exciting Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Okay, last year, the last couple of laps were pretty damn special.
But before that, it was really boring.
Hamilton
had just disappeared up the road.
This is a great strategic game. Really, really great. We're going to see who comes out on top. Ferrari, I think, for one of the rare times this year, has given Charles Leclerc the ultimate opportunity to do the best points haul that he can do in a race. And you can't...
How did we get the strategy so wrong?
Well, that's Sebastian Vettel. I was just about to talk about him because he's been overtaken by his teammate Lance Stroll. He's down in 11th place and out of the points-paying positions because he's done a one-stop and everybody else is on a two-stop pretty much. And Verstappen is leading, Leclerc is second, Perez is third, Hamilton is fourth, Sainz is fifth. Russell is in sixth, Lando Norris is in 7th place, 8th is Esteban Ocon, 9th is Daniel Ricciardo, 10th is Lance Stroll, 11th is Vettel, Tsunoda, Albon, Gasly and Zhou the top 15, Schumacher, Bottas, Magnussen and Latifi, the 19 drivers still running. But the gap is now 7.2 seconds between Leclerc and Perez. The last lap, it came down by 7/10. That's not enough. Here's Leclerc's radio.
And we need to increase tire saving at turn 3.
Yes, leave me alone, 3 seconds.
Copy.
Okay, just try and hang with him. He's on C5, so they'll probably go off. So just hang in there. 9 laps to go, 9 laps.
Leclerc says, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. At the place where that phrase was invented by Kimi Raikkonen all those years ago.
Yeah, Jack.
I knew you might ask me that. I'm going for 2012.
There
Yes.
we go. I think it was 2000. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure Twitter followers and other social media followers will.
Well, I was actually
agree, disagree, but I think it was 12.
I was told it by producer Paddy, so I don't know if, and he was told it by the BBC's chief F1 writer Andrew Benson.
And he is a wealth of knowledge.
Andrew Benson is, yes.
Yeah.
Producer Paddy's not got a clue what's going on. Max Verstappen is leading the Grand Prix, 7.5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Just 8 laps to go now in Abu Dhabi, and the fight for second in the championship is getting closer, but Leclerc at the moment is still holding on with a 7-second gap. Across the line they come, and Perez is quicker than Leclerc, but only by half a second. That's not enough. The gap comes down to just under 7 seconds. Lance Stroll is overtaking Daniel Ricciardo for 9th place. Good drive this from the Aston Martin man to get up into 9th spot. This is going to be so tight, because now the pace isn't there for Perez to close in on Leclerc, but it's whether Leclerc can keep this pace up on his tyres that he's now been on for, this is his 30th lap on these tyres.
Seems to be looking after them really, really well. I feel like Perez has hit a bit of a cliff. Unless Charles Leclerc's tyres really fall off the edge of a cliff, I think he's done enough. I really do. I think that this has gone the way of Charles Leclerc. Now, we've still got 7 laps to go, and it's going to be highly entertaining. But with 6.5 seconds in the pocket, it's one thing catching as well. It's another thing passing.
Lap 51 of 58. Jenny Gao.
Christian Horner, Red Bull team principal, coming into this race weekend.
No energy, Lance. No energy.
Give me energy!
Late pressing to 9. Late pressing to 9.
People have never managed to finish 1-2. Maybe it says quite a bit about that team, but as things stand, still not it.
Yeah, 6.3 seconds, the gap between Perez and Leclerc. The gap is coming down the whole time. Perez is about to do a personal best lap of the Grand Prix. Here he comes out of the final corner, and he again does a 29.1, which is another 6/10 out of the advantage with 6 laps to go. It's not enough. It's not enough.
If Red Bull want to get first and second in the championship now, I think there's got to be a call to Max Verstappen saying you need to slow the pace.
It's going to be tight, buddy. 7 laps to go. All out. All out.
I would be getting Max Verstappen involved if I was Red Bull, saying slow right down. You need to block Leclerc. Get Sergio involved.
And there have been times this season, last season, there's an argument that's.
It's going to be tight, buddy. 7 laps to go. All out. All out.
He held Lewis Hamilton up for a good few laps. Cost time, and arguably that meant that when the safety car came out at the end of the Grand Prix last year, Hamilton didn't have enough of an advantage over Verstappen to do a free pit stop, which would have saved which would have kind of won him the championship if he was on fresh tyres and Verstappen was on fresh tyres. So there is an argument that Perez won, and the fight in Turkey as well, that they had Perez and Hamilton. So there is arguments to say that Perez really helped Verstappen to that championship last year, and Verstappen at the moment pootling around 7.7 seconds ahead. But what can Verstappen do realistically? Well, he's 7 seconds ahead. He's got just got to slow down for a couple of corners.
You look back at the race that Lewis Hamilton did in 2016 to try and get Vettel to overtake Rosberg, so that Lewis could win the World Championship. Something like that. Reduce the pace but keep the lead and bring Sergio into contention to give him the opportunity to attack Charles Leclerc. We know the Red Bull is super strong in a straight line. If he did that, that could create the overtaking opportunity. But right now, the pace of the second Red Bull is just not enough.
Both Leclerc and Perez are absolutely pushing the limits. This is absolutely fantastic to watch. Perez has got the gap down now to 5 seconds. They're both doing personal bests on this lap so far as they come through the middle sector. Final race of the F1 season, the first game of the World Cup in Qatar coming up later on today. 4 o'clock kickoff here on 5 Live. Here's Perez's radio.
Max can't give Leclerc DRS. Just make it easier for Leclerc to defend against you.
Yeah, but my front right is giving up now.
Copy.
So that's interesting. So Red Bull's justification here is if Verstappen holds up Leclerc, like we're, hypothesizing about, that will give Leclerc DRS, which will make it easier for him to defend against Perez. That's the reasoning, and there's a bit of logic in that.
You would lose more by squabbling. If Max makes it super difficult and really overslows at some of the hairpins, really drives a little bit like what Lewis did in 2016, it is possible to give Sergio the opportunity. I completely get what they're saying about the DRS. Lewis Hamilton radio?
Hamilton's saying we should have stopped. He's 2.7 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz at the moment. Sainz on that last lap was a lot quicker, way quicker than Hamilton on that last lap.
Going to be on him the last lap. You got him.
Yeah, Verstappen this week saying to the media that he didn't care about being known as Mr. Nice Guy. I don't even know if he was asked to slow down whether he would. Who knows? But he's done a great job this year of driving, looking to win a 15th race.
Absolutely. Lap 54 of 58. And Hamilton is now coming up on the back of a squabbling duo of Schumacher and Bottas, coming down into the left-hander of turn 9, and this is going to cost Hamilton some time here as Schumacher turns in very aggressively. Go right around the outside of Bottas, can't quite pull it off. Schumacher then just about gets out of the way, but right in front of Hamilton. But that will have cost Hamilton a bit of time, and Sainz is now just 1.7 seconds back. Lap 55 of 58, across the line comes Verstappen now, 4 laps to go. The gap between Perez and Leclerc is down to 3.7 seconds. It was 9/10 on that last lap. So Perez took a big chunk out on that lap.
You're nearly 7/10 quicker than Norris last lap. He's really struggling. Let's push.
The last lap is when you'll be on him, and he can see him now. Sergio Perez up in the distance. There's a little scarlet spot under the floodlights in the night sky of Abu Dhabi, and that is Charles Leclerc. And when you can see the car ahead, does that give you a little bit more impetus?
Oh, you smell blood in the water. But forget his pole position lap in Saudi Arabia earlier this year. Sergio Perez now needs 3 of the best laps of his life if he wants to be vice champion. These need to be perfect laps.
Max Verstappen is leading, still 7.8 seconds ahead. Hamilton is under big attack here from Carlos Sainz, coming down into the braking zone at the chicane. These two who are side by side on the opening lap.
I've lost shifts. Shifts aren't working properly.
Copy. Okay, may have a hydraulic problem, so may go passive. Just be cautious.
Oh, Hamilton's out. I think Hamilton's out of the Grand Prix. A hydraulic problem, the team think, and he's slowing down on the back straight. And one stop.
I've lost shifts. Shifts aren't working properly.
Copy. Okay, may have a hydraulic problem, so may go passive, just be cautious.
Inside the car, sounds like he's still got some drive, so he should be able to get back to the pit lane and not cause a safety car. 3 laps to go, across the line they come, and it's another second that Perez takes out of Charles Leclerc. The gap's down to 2.7 seconds with 3 laps to go.
That guarantees Ferrari second in the Constructors' Championship as well.
Yeah, very true. So Hamilton grinding to a halt. Hasn't had many retired in Spa. This is his first mechanical retirement of the season, isn't it, for Lewis Hamilton? But the fight is now on. It's really on for second place. Perez is he gonna get a little nibble of DRS here? Yes, he is, because he's coming up to lap some cars that are in between he and Leclerc, and it's Gasly and Albon who are defending very hard, and that is going to hold Perez up. Perez sticks a nose in and across the line.
This great, doesn't clear.
Okay, understood.
That could be it that costs Perez. He pulls over to the right-hand side, does Pierre Gasly, and Perez breezes past and he gesticulates at Gasly. The AlphaTauri team, the junior team, Gasly, the former driver in Perez's seat, could have just held him up by a crucial few tenths of a second. Hamilton back in the pits, out of the Grand Prix. That promotes Norris up into 6th position. He's actually the driver with the fastest lap at the moment. It also promotes Vettel back up into the points in 10th place. Now, here they come, out across the line. 2 to go now, and Charles Leclerc does a 30.0, Sergio Perez a 29.4, so he still took 6 tenths out. He needs to gain a second on this last lap to be in DRS, and this needs to be a huge penultimate lap of the Grand Prix for Perez if he wants second in the championship. Through turns 3 and 4 and down towards...
Sorry about that, mate. I guess, yeah, just gave up the ghost at the end there. She's a bit tired.
That he got caught up in with Gasly.
I think so. I think Charles Leclerc's just about got enough underneath him. Sergio needs to do the lap of his life, and we need to see if Charles Leclerc's going to make a tiny little error. We've seen him make small errors before under pressure. Let's see if he makes one with a lap and a half to go.
Because he can now see Perez in his mirrors as well, and he's got to not drive in his mirrors.
Well, Ferrari would have been telling him the gap every single lap, what's going on, and trying to keep him calm and cool under pressure. But this is really serious pressure now. This means a lot to both of these guys. To be a vice world champion would mean a great deal to both Charles and Sergio. So this is a big lap and a half to come.
1.7 seconds the gap. Max Verstappen is leading the Grand Prix. But in the fight for second in the race is the fight for second in the championship. Fairly appropriately, I suppose, considering Verstappen has dominated, but these two are squabbling it out over second position. Verstappen starts the final lap of the race, and Perez is 2 seconds back as they come across the line. He's not going to be in DRS range. I don't think he's going to have enough. It's going to take a big mistake from Charles Leclerc on this final lap if he's not going to finish second, and Perez is going to get ahead of him. Verstappen, though, coming around the middle sector, and this race just sums up his season, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think both of these guys have had challenging seasons, let's put it that way. They've both been massively outclassed by Max Verstappen. I think that this will be a sigh of relief for Charles Leclerc to actually come across the line as vice champion. I think, is it deserved? Probably on the face of it, given his talent level. I think that he would be a worthy vice champion, as we see.
That's box. I cannot hear you. If you hear me, box, please, to retire the car.
Huge lockup behind going into that chicane. Not quite sure who's behind them on the road, but someone, I think it was Albon and Gasly, fighting over 13th, and one of them's had a huge lockup, and Albon's got ahead of Pierre Gasly, and he's got ahead of Joe as well. So good moves from Albon in the closing stages. Joe's now got back ahead of Alex Albon, so quite the fight going on for 12th place. But there's no fight up at the front. Max Verstappen, the world champion already of 2022, comes out of the final corner, and as he did in Abu Dhabi last year, takes victory. This time the championship's already wrapped up. He ends the season with 15 wins, the most of anyone in history. But across the line in second is Charles Leclerc. Ferrari have beaten Red Bull to second place in the World Championship. Charles Leclerc second in the standings. Sergio Perez will have to settle for third. Red Bull don't make it a clean sweep and get a championship 1-2. Really strong drive from Leclerc. Strong strategy from...
Let's go!
and they've done a really good job to end the season in second place. And the line, it was 1.3 seconds. 1.3 seconds, Leclerc holding off Perez. Fantastic stuff. Sainz in fourth, Russell in fifth. Sixth will be Lando Norris across the line. Seventh will be Esteban Ocon. There's still a fight going on, I think, for ninth place, which is Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel, both of whom probably in their final Formula One race. Sebastian Vettel certainly is. He's retiring at the end of this one. Daniel Ricciardo, after a miserable couple of seasons at McLaren, looks like he'll be joining Red Bull as a reserve driver for next season. And Vettel, who had such a strong race, he's going to pick up a point in 10th place. Well, he had a strong drive, but he's had a terrible race because of the strategy that Aston Martin decided to put him on. Through the final corner comes Ricciardo. The checker flag is there, and Ricciardo holds on to ninth position. Points for him in his final race. Point for Sebastian Vettel in his final race as they come down through the... He's left by the fireworks that have erupted along the start-finish straight as Verstappen took the win. But it is a 15th win this season for the champion of 2022, Max Verstappen, in Abu Dhabi.
That was sublime. Which is actually a perfect way to sum up this season, Max. It's been a pleasure.
Amazing race, and we'll manage to beat Thais, who are holding on really well. So great job to everyone. What an amazing season we've had. Unbelievable.
Very good job, Max. Well done. As GP says, an amazing way to round off what's been a beautiful year. Well done.
Yeah, we can all be very, very proud. How did Checo end up?
Just 1.3 behind. 1.3 behind Leclerc.
That's close.
Certainly was close. GP was Max Verstappen's race engineer, who we heard there, and then Christian Horner.
That was sublime. Which is actually a perfect way to sum up this season, Max. It's been a pleasure.
Amazing race, and we'll manage to beat Thais, who are holding on really well. So great job to everyone. What an amazing season we've had. Unbelievable.
Very, very good job, Max. Well done. As GP says, an amazing way to round off what's been a beautiful year. Well done.
Yeah, we can all be very, very proud. How did Checo end up?
Just 1.3 behind. 1.3 behind Leclerc.
That's close.
On the radio, can you see Max Verstappen yet, Jenny?
Yeah, I can. The smoke's clearing now. It absolutely reeks, but he's parked his car right in the middle of the track. Sergio Perez just arriving now, and the three of them take their spots. Verstappen just climbing out of the car, the gold helmet shining in the light.
Yes, baby. We got it. At least. Good job, guys. Good race. Really good race.
Leclerc for Ferrari, what a great race they had, a strategy masterclass for once. If only it could have been that strong all year, we might have had a real battle for the championship. But my word, the reception for Sergio Perez now as he climbs out of his car wasn't to be for him, couldn't do it for the Red Bull team, but the fans adoring him, and all three drivers make their way towards this side.
And a really, really fun way to end the season in that fight between Leclerc and Perez. Leclerc getting hugged and high-fived by all of the Ferrari mechanics, and also with Max Verstappen, who gives him a little high-five as well. I love donuts. I love cars doing donuts. It's a very childish thing. I don't know why they're so interesting. On paper, it's stupid. Vettel's going to do some donuts as well. He's carried on over the start-finish straight, and he lights up the rear tyres and spins the car in a huge circle, and the plumes of white smoke of the burning rubber emerge from the back of the car as he spins around in a circle. It's so stupid. I don't know why I like it, but it's just I just love donuts.
It's great fun.
Sound like Homer Simpson, but you know what I mean.
Very reminiscent of India 2013 after he won his 4th world title. He celebrated there by doing the same thing. Thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah, Danke Seb written on the car as well. His final Formula One Grand Prix, 4 world championships, one of the most successful Formula One drivers of all time. Bowing out of Formula One, stands on the front wheel, waves to the crowd. And there were times where his domination was, you know, not particularly enjoyed, like all domination really, towards the end of 2013 in the Red Bull. But he's become something know, he's become a real... He was always a real character when he joined F1. You know, he was quoting Monty Python in press conferences and a very amusing man. But he's had this sort of renaissance as a activist and you know, a environmental activist, a political activist, appearances on Question Time. And it's going to be fascinating to see what the future has for him. But now it's time to hear from our top three. They are talking down on the grid to Jenson Button, and we're starting with Sergio Perez.
Checo. I mean, it looked like a tough race out there for you, and you've missed out on that P2 by one point. How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's how it is. Sometimes everything can be really close, but at the end of the day, you gotta be happy. You know, I gave it all. As a team, we gave it all through the season, and I'm sure we will come back stronger for next year.
Yeah, I mean, this season, there's been a lot of ups and downs for you. Yesterday looked great in qualifying. For me, it just felt that you a little bit more and you would have had that pole position and we could have had a very different story. But what positives can you really take from the 2022 season?
Well, certainly, you know, we had great moments, great battling. I think I did struggle a bit with these tires for this year, you know, in terms of managing the tires in the race. So hopefully that can be something that we will improve for next year and generally just be a bit stronger.
Excellent, Checo. Well, enjoy the winter and look forward to you giving it a bit more next year.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers, Checo.
So Sergio Perez, third in the race in the end, and now the second place man, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, second in the race and the championship. And he's with Jenson.
Charles, it looks like it took a lot out of you, that race.
Yeah, it did. I was 110% from the first lap to the last lap. Honestly, we had the perfect race for us. There was not much more today. I knew that the only possibility for us to beat Checo today was with a different strategy and playing with the tire management, which we did really well today. And we managed to make the one-stop work, so really, really happy.
Yeah, it looked like it was a big strategy call by the team, which is great to see them making really positive calls, and yourself. P2 in the championship, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I really hope next year we can do a step forward in order to fight for the championship, but considering where we were last year, it's a really big step forward. I think we improved towards the end of the season in terms of strategy. We still need to work in terms of race pace because coming the Sunday we seem to struggle a bit more. But we will push during the winter break in order to catch them back a little bit.
Cheers, Charles.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And now the race winner, Max Verstappen, his 15th win of the season.
Okay, Kev, that's the checkered flag. Okay, that was a very tough race, but I guess we got out of it what we needed in the end.
Yeah, tough race, but happy we got 8th. So let's work hard over the winter to move up a little more next year. Thanks, guys.
Obviously last year it was a little bit more competitive with fighting with Lewis for the championship, but this year you've walked away with it.
It's been really enjoyable, you know, to work with the whole team and to be able to achieve something like this year. I know it's going to be hard to replicate something like this, but it's also very good motivation to try and do well again next year.
Yeah, and it's great. You know, there's some real true fighters on the grid, and you've done all you can with what you've been given. So congratulations. Enjoy your winter.
Thank you,
We'll see you next year.
All right, cheers.
Max Verstappen, the world champion again for the second year in a row. And we're also now going to hear from Sebastian Vettel at the end of his Formula One career on the grid in Abu Dhabi. Waves to the crowd as he heads over to Jenson Button. Gives him a big embrace.
Congratulations, Seb. 4 world championships, and you score points in your last race. How are you feeling?
Yeah, well, you know how it is. I wish it would have been up a couple of more points. But yeah, I enjoyed the race. I think it was a bit of a different warm-up today to get into the race, but once the lights go off, it's full-on race mode. I think we, about today, obviously didn't go for maybe the best strategy, so it was a shame because I think we could have turned the Constructors' Championship around for us, but yeah, overall, obviously a big day and a big thank you to all the support, so many flags, so many smiling faces, which has been very, very special, very nice, and I'm sure I'm going to miss more than I understand right now, yeah.
But just talking about the race today, you looked like you were fighting with the Alpines. It looked like you could have finished so much higher, and it just went away from you guys. It seemed really strange.
I mean, obviously we then opted to stay out, and you know, once the tires were getting older, we were going backwards. But once we committed to the one stop, I think that was it. But it was obviously the slower strategy today, so not so enjoyable when you're in the car and you're going backwards. I was fighting through the people, had a nice battle with Daniel, but just couldn't get close enough. But yeah, I think it's nice to also with him to fight the last couple of laps, and you know, both of us finishing in the points. So yeah, it's been a big weekend.
You have the microphone. Please leave us with a message.
I don't have that much more to say. I feel a bit empty, to be honest. It's been a big weekend, but I can only repeat. You know, I think the last 2 years have been very maybe disappointing.
Well done, guys. That was a good race, I think. Just, it's unbelievable, that front deck. I don't know if everyone else had this issue on the mediums, but just one lap behind another car and my fronts have gone. It wasn't pretty.
Alex, was another great drive. Thank you very much. Well done.
Thanks, just. I just to say a big, yeah, it was nice. Just a big thanks to all of you for this year. It's been really special for me to be a part of this team.
It's been great for me, so thank you for the support, thank you for all the messages, the letters, and all the love in general. So yeah, I will miss that, but it's been an absolute joy, you know, throughout my career. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, says Sebastian Vettel as he goes to embrace Jenson Button, the man behind the mic.
Not our finest day.
Thanks for your efforts. As you said, not our best weekend for sure. On to next year. Let's see what we can do. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, George, sorry for the day. That sums our season up, I guess. Onwards and upwards next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A sports star with a real mission as he just walks in front of me away from the grid for the very final time in his Formula One career. And Sam Bird, just sum up. We'll talk about the winners, we'll talk about the season, we've got plenty of time, but just sum up how important Sebastian Vettel has been for the driving community.
Hugely important. You know, he's been actively involved in the Drivers Association. He's helped evolve safety. He's been an inspiration to younger drivers coming up. Let's remember, he won 4 World Championships on the bounce. He is now, you know, clearly involved in environmentalism and is an activist in all kinds of things to do with bettering the planet that we live on. So he's an inspiration to to the younger generation, and it's been a pleasure watching him over his career.
Only Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton and Juan Manuel Fangio have more world titles than Sebastian Vettel. That's, you know, that's the record he has. Incredible record, and I have to say this weekend he's been pretty incredible as well. He put on events, people put on events for him as well, and yesterday it kind of culminated before the race action began with him organising a run around the circuit. 2 laps, everybody else did 1, and he took time to speak to everybody, gave everybody t-shirts, signed lanyards, whether it was members of the press, other teams, drivers, logistical, everybody in there. And I didn't run, but he ran, and it was a really nice way to sign off from his time in Formula One. So just to run you through the results, because it was a bit of a whirlwind at the end, although we're in the driver's green room now. Can we hear anything? Perez there with Verstappen, not talking much. Right, Verstappen finished first, then Leclerc, Perez. It was Sainz, Russell, Norris, Ocon, Stroll, Ricciardo and Vettel closing out the top 10. Then Tsunoda, Show, Albon, Gasly, Bottas, Schumacher and Magnussen. Hamilton had to retire from the race just before the end. Latifi also retired, as did Fernando Alonso. Verstappen, what a year it's been for him, Jack Nicholls. He's been practically perfect. Yeah, difficult to think of many mistakes this year for Max Verstappen. You know, there have been a couple here and there, but the dominance towards the end of the year has just been unbelievable. Ever since he got beaten in Austria, and that was really...
Yeah, tough race for us today, but we can reflect on a great season together. Thank you for everything this year.
Third race in Australia, he retired. He won the rest of the opening 7 races of the season, except for Monaco, where the Red Bulls were off the pace and he finished third. He was leading at Silverstone until he picked up damage and didn't win and finished 7th. Then he was beaten fair and square in Austria. Since then, it's been again non-stop domination. Win in France, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands, Italy, Singapore. He was about to take pole position, but the team didn't have enough fuel in the car, so he couldn't. So he started at the back and it was a wet race, so he finished in 7th. But then wins in Japan, in America and Mexico. And then obviously ends up in that collision in Sao Paulo with Hamilton last year. But it's just been pretty flawless, you have to say, from Verstappen this season. And there's a lot of hope that next year Ferrari will bring the fight properly. It looked as though the fight was on in the early stage of the season. You have to give Verstappen full credit, but I think when people look back at this season, there will be a lot more question marks over Ferrari falling away than necessarily plaudits of Verstappen's driving. That's not to say Verstappen doesn't deserve the plaudits, but this does feel like a season where Ferrari imploded, and you can't afford to implode against Verstappen and Red Bull. That's why last year's championship fight was so intense.
You certainly can't. To my right, the Red Bull garage. It's pretty much deserted now. Everybody now under the podium waiting to celebrate Max Verstappen's win. But the music already pumping out. Can we be hopeful, Sam Bird, then, that this time next year we'll have seen a tremendous battle for the championship, with maybe Mercedes coming back into it, with maybe Ferrari finding some form, whether it's Binotto at the helm or somebody else?
Let's hope so, Jenny. Let's hope so. I would very much like to see a 6-way fight for the title next year. That's what everybody wants to see.
That's greedy. I was looking for a 2-way title fight.
While we're on the top 6, am I right in suggesting that because Lewis Hamilton retired in today's race, that Carlos Sainz actually finishes in front of him in the World Championship? So Lewis Hamilton drops to 6. Which I believe
I'm not convinced, Sam Bird. He'll lose much sleep about that, will he?
No, he won't, because Lewis Hamilton is out there to win World Championships, so coming 6th really
He said in an interview yesterday when talking about the car, he didn't call it the car or the Mercedes, he called it the thing, and they were looking forward to getting it in the bin. I think Toto Wolff on National Toilet Day yesterday even said he was looking forward to getting it into the toilet. It's been that bad. It's been a horrible season for Hamilton, for Russell, for Mercedes, but at least Russell got that win, I suppose.
He did.
That'll keep him going.
Yeah, that'll keep the team going. This is a team that are relentless, will want to bounce back next year. Remember, there is absolute animosity between Red Bull and Mercedes, and Mercedes will not like the fact that Red Bull have dominated this year. They will want to come back next year. They will have more wind tunnel time, so will Ferrari, and they will try and use that and exploit that to their advantage.
Yeah, they have that not only because of the rules and the regulations, but also, of course, that cost cap breach. Will that come back to hurt Red Bull next year? I'm quite excited about next season already. Let's go to Bahrain now.
No, we can't do that. We've got a whole World Cup to fit in, and there's no time for F1. It's all about the football now. You can download the Checkered Flag podcast. I'm sure we'll get into lots of whys and whys about who is the driver of the championship this year and all the events that have happened. We'll do a review show as well. So best really, even though it's the last one, to subscribe to the Checkered Flag podcast. It's been a pleasure from all of us on our team to bring you coverage of the 2022 Formula One World Championship. Thank you so much for sticking with us. It's been an IMG production for BBC 5 Live, and now attention shifts. We're in the same part of the world, but it's time for the World Cup to begin. I cannot wait.